Hi everyone, meet Venerable Dr. Pannavati.
You could just drop the doctor part. The world gave me that. That doesn't matter.
Well, that's
Venerable Pannavati.
Venerable Pannavati. You just mentioned that there are more Khmer Bhikkhuni or Khmer Bhikkhuni in this world than yes. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that have been happening with Cambodia over the last decade. Since 2006, Venerable Dr. Lee has been ordaining Thai Bhikkhunis, and I would go over there and actually do the ordination because I'm not living there.
Is this in Thailand?
This is in Thailand.
Okay.
So that's how we started making connections with the Cambodians.
Oh.
So I think it was maybe 2009
Okay.
that we went to Cambodia because here in the U.S. I had a woman who was at I forget the name of the temple, but Inlet, I think, or Inlet, or
What
Islet,
city or what?
Inlet. It's in South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I went with her to go home because she wanted to ask her parents for their blessings to become Bhikkhuni.
A Bhikkhuni, okay.
And so we took some of the Thai nuns with her
Okay.
so that they could see Bhikkhunis.
Okay.
So when we went to see him read, and I forget the name of the great monk that was there, he was like so excited. One of his disciples came riding up on a motorcycle.
Okay.
And he said, "What are you?" And he said, "Like, we're Bhikkhuni." He said, No, Bhikkhuni." He said, Yes, Bhikkhuni. And so he said, "What are you doing here?" And so I told him that we were bringing a Cambodian from who's living in the U.S. now to visit with her family to ask permission to go forth. And so he took us to his master's temple. And I'll tell you, it was like so wonderful because they cleared out one of the smaller temples on the ground, and we laid out SEMA boundary, and all of the monks just paraded through. It was like we were in a zoo, because they had not seen women like this before. And the next day he took us around to several elementary schools.
How many Bhikkhunis were there at the time? How many Bhikkhuni at the time?
I'm sorry?
How many Bhikkhuni went with you?
I think there were 10 of us.
10?
I mean, it was a lot. I mean, that's a lot for there.
And the Khmer woman was a nun? She was not a Bhikkhuni yet, right?
No, she was not.
Oh, okay, okay.
Bhikkhuni.
Go ahead.
And so he took us around to the elementary school so that the girls could see.
Nice.
But I think he was very old, and I think he died. So we've had a lot of support for things for a very long time. But some things take a long time.
Right.
We have to have the patience to work through that. So when I came back to the U.S., we did the first temporary ordination in South Carolina, and then we had 13 nuns who took temporary ordination, Cambodian. And
what do you mean by temporary? What do you mean by temporary ordination?
They did a 10-day.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
So that everybody could get used to seeing them in robes and things like that. Okay. And then Stockholm came. And it was so funny because when we did it, like everybody sat down, like we're going to do this, right? For ordination. And then at the last minute, one monk would turn this way, one monk would do this, one would get up and look out the window, and then Sakhon arrived.
The Cambodian woman.
No, Sakhon, the head of the Khmer monk.
Khmer monk. Okay, got
it. From Cambodia, the Cambodian monks in the U.S.
Okay.
So Sakhon came. And when he came and sat down, all the monks came back and we did that temporary ordination. And he was so happy. He said, finally tonight, the sons and the daughters of the Buddha are back together one family. And he was building that big temple that they have now in
what state are we talking about?
It's in Massachusetts, but the big Khmer. So he was in the process of raising funds to build it at that time. But he said, when it is built, we will have the first Bhikkhuni ordination for Cambodian women here, and they have had that ordination.
Is that the Khmer temple in Lowell?
Maybe, but it's the really large one, and it's the main temple
And that's where
in Massachusetts.
And that's where the first Khmer Bhikkhuni who ordained
Yes.
in Sri Lanka reside.
Yeah, and so we just did a temporary.
Okay.
But he promised me that when it was built, he was gonna, that they would have Bhikkhunis there, and he kept his promise. He died, I think maybe 2 years ago.
Oh, I think we're talking the same monk then.
Yeah,
okay,
yes,
okay,
but he
okay.
did do it. So it's wonderful to be a part of this history making.
Yes.
But I tell you, even though we were basically Thai, we do have some Cambodian nuns, a couple of them, and you can check with Venerable Dr. Lee on that, because I don't do a lot of work with that anymore. It's already done. There's
Okay.
nothing else for me to do.
Okay.
That work can go forth by itself now.
So you mentioned that there's a lot of Cambodian Bhikkhunis, right?
Well, I won't say there's a lot. I'm saying there's
some.
And,
Where?
and this year or last year was not the first year.
Okay.
So maybe the first going through the Sri Lankan line. But I very much respect all of the Buddhist lines,
Right.
not just the Sri Lankan line. And so some are affiliated, with the Sri Lankan line, and some are affiliated with other lineages. But I think that they're all equal. No one is like, if we ordain you, you really ordain.
Right.
We need to move beyond that as
Right.
women.
Okay.
The men are together, the women are still divided.
Okay. Now you mentioned, are there some of them in Cambodia physically?
I think they are actually in Thailand, but if you check with Dr. Lee, she can let you know where they are. And they may not be out. A lot of our nuns are not like out in the open. It's not a political statement for them.
Oh.
They are deeply entrenched in their practice, in their cultivation. Some of them live in caves. Some of them are supported by other Bantes there, other monks there, and some have their own. I think maybe 6 or 7 have their own temples there.
So
It's been a long time effort.
if that's the
And
case,
the record shows.
how would the next generation know that we women actually do thrive?
Well, I think that's incumbent. Some of they're actually doing.
Okay.
Some are talking about it. Everybody has their own role to play.
Okay,
In it,
okay.
But I think, for instance, I'm here, but I went over there to support her every
Right.
year
Okay.
in ordaining, and she continues to work with them. So sometimes you have to know the right time, the right time to do something. Sometimes you have to plant something and let it take root and germinate underground. When it comes forth, it's going to come forth strong. Rather than demanding, then there comes an allowance.
Right.
And allowing is so much better than demanding force and resistance. So that's how we have worked with it over the past more than 10 years now. So it's one thing. I don't believe in force. I remember one time, when the letters were going to say, please allow women to ordain. But I'm an African American, so I know something about being in bondage and captivity. And so before I was Buddhist, I was a Christian, and there's a passage in the Bible that says, slaves, obey your masters and work hard for them. But if you see an opportunity for your freedom, seize it. So I'm not writing any letters. They've already said no. I'll just go there. We'll ordain them, and then they can't say they're none there because they're there. And in due season, in the right time, they will come forward. But I think the biggest hindrance or obstacle, maybe, to it not being as well known is because many people know, many Bhikkhunis know, certainly the Bhikkhunis in the U.S. know, but because Dr. Lee is not part of their group, it's not publicized. So that's where I think we should come together as women and give honor where honor is due, and that we should support all the women who are working towards this movement, because some people have given their whole life for it in Thailand to make that so.
Because this year is exciting because during the Cambodian New Year, around April 14th through 20th or so, the Bhikkhuni over here, the Khmer Bhikkhunis over here, we went to the Khmer community during the New Year, 4 different places. So many of these people saw Bhikkhuni for the first time.
Yeah.
And the majority of them really were excited, were grateful, and they all support in having female as Bhikkhunis. And all these 4 temples that we went to, they're very supportive. And we have like the Bhikkhuni was sitting line by line with other bhikkhus.
Yeah,
so that was amazing.
No, it really is, but the thing is that sometimes when something comes forth, when you see it, there's been so much work that has been done behind the scenes to make that moment possible. So one plants, another waters, and then the increase comes. So sometimes we plant and we don't get the harvest, but it doesn't matter as long as the harvest comes.
And at the same time, a group of Bhikkhuni, international Bhikkhuni, when Cambodia, they did like Pannavati during about the same time. So it was like almost like a miracle that thing happened from 2 different continents. The same thing, trying to introduce something that is beautiful, that should be there in the first place.
Yes, it really should, and I'm glad that it's coming forth in this way. But I'm just saying that more than a decade of effort has gone into that, and there are many, many, many Thai nuns and a few Cambodian Bhikkhunis long before last year or this year.
So, in addition, what I have done also before that, I read the Khmer Tipika. The Buddha's teaching about the Bhikkhuni, about the rule, about all that good things that he said about Bhikkhunis, and I shared them before that. So it's been introduced quite a bit.
Yeah.
What other thing from your experience that we could do all together?
Well, I think one thing that's important to remember is that the Buddha said that a monk is one inwardly. So we have all of these outer forms and outer things we're doing, and even to really acclimate more of the just the ordinary citizenry towards accepting, it's tied to some of the superstitions like now my daughter can be a monk and I will have a place in heaven and things like that. But I'm talking about women who are determined to become unbound, and that's an inner thing. And that's something that rises up from the inside. So I hope in all of our outward movement we don't lose sight of why one really goes forth into homelessness.
One more question. I heard a comment that yes, Cambodian Bhikkhuni can happen outside of Cambodia, but not inside. What would you respond to that?
Well, then get it outside and go into Cambodia. I mean, that's what we did. We held like secret ones. We weren't trying to embarrass anybody, or have a standoff, public standoff. We would just quietly, behind the scenes, hold the ordination. There were many, many monks that supported us, and we videoed those and we kept them so that when the time is right for it to come forth, we have all the proofs, So I would say that the best thing that we can do is to allow the women, to fulfill their aspiration, and everybody else will come along in due time, and they will figure out what to do and how to do it. And sometimes we start something and then we want to run the whole show. But they will know how to move forward. They have a part in it as well. We're not just doing something for them, but they themselves are liberating themselves. I so respect those women.
I just remember one comment from a Buddhist monk who told me that, yes, it's okay, males reject the ordination of Bhikkhuni, but women themselves also some of these women don't support.
Yes.
How would you say that?
Well, that's a situation that's prevalent whenever there are women are the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
We always have been.
Yeah.
And so we're familiar with that.
Yeah.
We see it in every part of our society.
Yeah.
And if one or 2 or 3 get in, us 3 and no more.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just a natural part of life and the way the unenlightened mind thinks. You know, but there is power in numbers, and in one staying the course, and in time it has its own perfect work in the world, and it impacts. So in the beginning, the culture impacts, you know, our understanding and walking out of the Dharma.
Yeah.
But if we stand in what we know to be true, then the Dharma begins to impact the culture, and
that's the way it works. Yeah. Do you have any other suggestion, any recommendation for us Cambodian women?
I tell them, be brave, believe what the Buddha said, take pride in their public declaration, be respectful of the monks. I mean, you know, the Buddha said, those who are kind to me, I'm kind to them. Those who are not kind to me, I'm still kind.
Kind to them, yes.
And so just being respectful. Some people will not be able to change. You know? There has to be a changing of the guard.
Right.
You know, so I wondered, like, when will they have ultimate freedom? When a lot of the older ones who think in that way, when they die, the world is still going on, and there are many monks who have wanted this, who have longed for this, who embrace it. And so even when we don't see something in our lifetime, if we start something, there will be the increase at some point
in time.
So we might not go to the finish line with somebody, but start something.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Venerable. Thank you.